Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining. We're going to give it a couple of minutes just so we can get some more people into the webinar before we kick off. For anyone just joining, we're going to just give it a couple of minutes until we've got some more people in. We're waiting for another sort of 20, 30 people. We'll give it till about 33 and then we'll kick off. For those just joining, we're just going to wait for another minute and then we're going to kick off at about 33. Last few seconds and then let's start. Just so everyone that's already on, just so you know, this is being recorded and it will be on YouTube for anyone that wants to watch it or pass it around afterwards. Just got a few more joining. We'll make a start now, though, I think. So thanks, everyone, for joining. This is, I think it's our third or fourth webinar now. We're going to try and do these every 2 months. This one particularly is about Copilot, as you've probably guessed. Specifically going to look at prompts and also agents, trying to give you an overview of the best way to prompt and get the most out of Copilot. We touch on it as well a little bit about the difference between the unpaid and the paid Copilot, and then we'll look at agents and the various different types of agents, how to create agents, and some of the capabilities of agents that you may well not know about. So over to Ellie to kick things off.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Andy. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to start off really just telling you why Copilot isn't a want, it's a must. So as Andy's briefly mentioned already, a lot of you will probably notice that you all have the Copilot icon at the moment. So that's whether you've got the paid or the free version. So Copilot can transform productivity. So it takes care of repetitive, time-consuming tasks like drafting emails, summarising meetings, creating presentations and generating reports. I don't know about you guys, but I tend to generate quite a lot of reports, so Copilot definitely helps me out with that. It helps you focus on higher value work by automating the basics. So just think of it as your digital assistant that never sleeps, really. Instead of spending hours formatting documents or pulling data, Copilot can do it in seconds. It's not just about speed, it's also about reducing cognitive load so you can work smarter, not harder. Copilot also delivers real business value. AI adoption is no longer optional, it's a competitive necessity. As a lot of you probably know, that the word AI is obviously thrown around all the time now. So definitely should be using some sort of AI tool, and obviously we're going to recommend Copilot to you. Organisations that embrace tools like Copilot can gain a clear edge in efficiency and innovation. It helps teams respond faster, make better decisions and deliver higher quality outputs, which is critical in today's fast-paced business environment. Businesses that ignore AI risk falling behind as automation becomes the standard. A good thing about Copilot in comparison to other AI tools is that it's built for your ecosystem. It's deeply integrated into Microsoft 365, so Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, and Teams. Copilot works where you already work. It understands your context, your files, calendars, conversations, and workflows. That means smarter suggestions and more accurate outputs than generic AI tools. Security and compliance are built in, so you can trust Copilot with your sensitive business data. This integration makes Copilot a natural extension of your daily tools, not an extra step, so adoption is seamless.
Okay, so this is a new pricing model that Microsoft announced last week or the week before. It actually went live on the 1st of December. I think they've realised that for SMBs, the price of £24 per user per month was off-putting for a lot of customers. So they brought out a new SMB price between 1 and 300 users. Only £17, I say only, just under £17 per license per user per month. So that's down from £24 if you've got less than 300 staff. So I think this is going to really help increase the number of people using Copilot. They've also brought out a bundle where if you buy Business Premium and Copilot together, you get a reduced price of about £35. I actually don't think that's an amazing bundle. I think Keybridge can probably give you a better price than that on Business Premium and Copilot for Business bundled together. But the main thing to note is that Copilot itself, for less than 300 people, it's a lot more appealing now as of Monday. So if you've got Copilot licensing already, as soon as that comes up for renewal, we can reduce the cost. Anyone looking to purchase, bear in mind, as I say, it's a new SKU. It's Copilot for Business, not just Copilot. And the bundle pricing, definitely worth looking at, but I think we can beat that for you anyway. The next thing I want to talk now about prompting. So a lot of people love ChatGPT and they don't always get on with Copilot, even though it's the same large language model as ChatGPT. What I would definitely encourage you to do, even if it's in the free version of Copilot that's within your 365 environment, turn on GPT-5. A lot of people are still using the old GPT-4. You're going to get a lot more intelligent responses, a lot more deeper thinking, it's a lot quicker. It also has the ability to do a lot more creativity for you. So in terms of if you're building images or videos, GPT-5 is far better than GPT-4. I highly recommend play around with the two. You can also practice doing a prompt with GPT-4 and then try the same prompt with GPT-5 and see the difference that you get.
Thank you very much. I also just quickly wanted to mention a very important thing with when you're kind of adopting any sort of AI tool, it's very important to start with clear goals. So instead of expecting your AI tool to do everything, we're kind of pushing everyone to treat it like a new staff member who's got certain duties and roles to fulfill. So the idea of Copilot and agents are to add resources to your team. So for example, if you was going to hire a new staff member, you wouldn't kind of expect them to understand the business and the way that things work from day one. And it's the same with AI. We can also at Keybridge, we can help you in your business with an AI adoption map. And that's basically just going to help determine what you want and what you'd like AI to do for you in your business.
Thanks, Lily. So GCSE, this is an idea that we learned this only fairly recently, actually. The biggest thing about prompting is being more descriptive with the prompts, because ChatGPT and Copilot will just assume far too much if you don't give it enough information. And the way to think of it, this procedure is pretty good. This is a good template. So goal, context, source, and expectations. Now, the other thing is with Copilot, people forget you can ask Copilot for help through prompts. So if you want to come up with a prompt to do a certain task, ask Copilot to suggest how to give you the prompt to do that task. So I gave this a go earlier in the week, and I asked Copilot to give me some ideas of some prompts using the GCSE template. There are different ways of doing this, but this is pretty good. And Copilot actually came back with some prompts. So I used recruitment as an example, and I gave it a fairly loose brief, to be honest, but it came back with 5 really good scenarios. It gave me the different goals, context, sources, and expectations, and then it told me how to write the prompt. So on the next slide, you'll see there's some good examples here of what Copilot can do just by literally asking it to help you. So Ellie, if you go to the next slide for me. Oh, thank you very much. So, for example, weekly desk performance digest. So it came up with the idea that you want to summarize the desk activity versus targets. The audience is the team leader. The source is your ATS. So this is the other thing to note is that you can build in connectors into Copilot and you can build in sources. So you can add in your dynamic CRM or your Salesforce CRM. So it's not just looking at your internal 365 tenant. It's not just looking at the web as well. It's looking at your other sources that you want to integrate. Obviously, you need the paid Copilot to do this. But based on this very first example, it then came up with the 4 lines of prompt. And then we've got a few other examples. So teams and model comparison. So it came up with the idea that you want to compare the delivery models and recommend for a niche. Then it comes up with who the client is, what the source of the information is, and what your expectations are at the end. So what I'm really trying to get at here is that the prompting is really important and that you can ask Copilot to actually help write your prompts so you don't get stuck. A simple 1-line prompt isn't going to do the job because it won't know what format you want it to come out in. It won't know who your audience is. It won't know what the context is. So really give it a go. And the best thing is to try, do a 1-line prompt, then ask Copilot to suggest a more detailed prompt and then test that out. And you'll see the difference will be remarkable.
So just to jump in here, so if we was to ask Copilot a question and ask it to apply the GCSE model, would it be able to do that for you, or do you have to tell it what the GCSE model is?
It does depend on what day you ask Copilot. I did this a few times. Once, the first time I asked it about GCSE, it obviously came up with GCSE qualifications at school. When I mentioned it a bit more specifically, this is GCSE templating for Copilot prompts, it knew exactly what I meant and it came back. And as per this screen, you can see that it knew that it was goals, context, scenario, and expectations. And then it was very happy to give me more and more and more examples. And you can have a conversation with Copilot and just keep going back and forward until you've got exactly what you want.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, so next thing really is looking at agents. Now, there's a lot of built-in agents, majority of which you need a Copilot license for, some you don't. We're going to look at the research agent a bit later on. This does need a license, but it's very, very powerful. But there's an awful lot of agents already pre-built. These agents on the screen are managed by Microsoft. You can't modify them, but you can use them. You can share them with the business. You can decide who can and who can't use these agents. But they all do different things, and they're all very good at what they do. Then there's some new ones coming out. So Frontier is like a beta program that Microsoft's using, and it's developing agents within the apps even better than what you have at the moment. But it's also interestingly using Claude. So Claude is another large language model like GPT-4 and GPT-5. Claude will give different responses, and Microsoft believes that Claude is better when producing documents, spreadsheets, and PowerPoint. So that's coming soon. And there's a thing called agent mode. As time goes by, when you're in Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, you'll be able to turn it into agent mode where Copilot can actually interact with the document that you're working on, and it can actually make changes in front of you as you're working together. At the moment, that's not possible. It will create you separate documents or give you ideas. Whereas in agent mode, it's going to actually be able to modify real time as you're working, like you've got a PA working with you, helping you write the document.
Perfect.
This was what I was referring to earlier on. So the research agent, Microsoft produced this. It's added, as soon as you add a Copilot license, it'll add it on for you. You do have to tell it that you want to use it, and you do have to tell it if you want your business to be able to use it. But it's far more advanced than just asking Copilot to go and do some research for you. This will question what you ask. So if you say, I'm looking to do a study of my competitors in the recruitment sector, I want to see what the trends are, what they're doing in terms of what AI they're using. It will come back and say, well, hold on a minute, what region are you looking at? What size businesses are you looking at? What sectors are you looking at? It won't just assume that it knows what you want it to do. It will reason. It has much better reasoning skills, and the more sources it uses, it can look at all the sources and come up with a much more valid response. It will take time to run. It won't just come back in 5 seconds. It will do deep research, and the documents it produces at the end are pretty special. And like I said earlier, you can also get it to look at sources like your ATS system, your CRM, and come up using your own information as well as obviously what's on the public internet as well. Later on, when I do a demo of the agents, I'll show you just briefly the difference between asking Copilot to do a bit of research for you versus asking the research agent to look at it for you as well. Then agent ideas. So obviously the agent ideas, it's endless what you can do with Copilot. What we're going to show today is a HR agent. This is a really, really simple agent that will look at a SharePoint site or a document and allow your staff to query holiday entitlement, paternity leave policy, etc., etc. It saves coming to the HR team, saves going to your HR app. With certain HR apps, they do have connectors within Copilot. I believe that Bamboo HR has a connector. So, for example, you could take this to the next level and actually have your team booking holiday and checking holiday allowance through this HR agent. We're not going to do that today. We're just going to literally focus on letting it read from a SharePoint site and give back sensible feedback. More advanced agent ideas, document formatting. We looked at this last week. I've not been able to demo this today because it is quite comprehensive, but I'd love to show some of you if you're interested in the future. You could create an agent with Copilot Studio that, for example, it could monitor a mailbox, and there could be a trigger that you set within the agent that when an email comes in with an attachment, it will grab that attachment. It will use a template that you've set up for a company branded CV. It will pull the information out of the CV that's been sent to you, put it into the new format. It could then save that into a separate SharePoint library. It could then message on Teams to tell people that there's a new CV to review. You could even get it to go further than that and actually get it to compare maybe with job specs or compare CVs with each other. But really, the opportunities with the agents are endless. You could create your own research agent. So you could create an agent that will go and help your staff go and do research on your particular sector. So you might want a business development manager to go and do some research into certain new businesses or certain new sectors. This agent could do that for you. You could tell the agent to go and look for X number of businesses who are doing M&A in a certain area, or they've set up new sites, so they might be hiring. They might have done a recent product launch. And you can tailor an agent to do that for you and then come back with the required information in the required format. All sorts of other options as well. So workflow automation, anything that you do on a regular basis, we could get agents to do this for you. And then data retrieval agents, so reporting from various sources. So at the moment, for example, within Keybridge, we use a number of different systems. So we use Ninja for our monitoring, we use Copilot, we use ConnectWise for our ticketing system, and we use Acronis for our backup. They've all got what they call APIs, REST APIs. So their APIs are going to be integrated into Copilot. So I'll be able to say to Copilot on a Monday, please tell me what happened last week with customer X, how many backups were performed, what was the feedback like last week, how many tickets were logged last week. And Copilot will be able to do that because I've integrated those APIs. And that's all possible with most CRMs because most have an API available. Next thing really is to look at the agent creation itself. So first of all, we're going to create an agent in Copilot, the Copilot app, which is also the same as using Copilot in Teams. This is a really quick process, and you can use just plain text to speak to Copilot to get it to create the agent. There's no code. It's very, very straightforward. And this will be the quickest way to create an agent. A bit later on, I'm then going to create an agent through Copilot Studio. So you can see the additional features and functionality that's available in Copilot Studio. But we'll kick off now with a demo of just literally creating a very straightforward app, or agent rather, within Copilot. So just bear with me. I'm just going to share my screen. So I've got a demo environment here, which hopefully you can see. Okay. So before I go and start creating the agent, I'm just going to go and very quickly show you the conversations that I had earlier on. So I asked Copilot to analyze the most in-demand skills in the IT sector and predict future skills requirements for the next 3 to 5 years. And it did a pretty good job. It came back with some bullet points. It thinks it knows what we need to do in the future if you're hiring IT staff. It looked at a lot of different sources, but it's not very comprehensive at all. And it's very, very vague, what I've put here. If I then go to the researcher chat that I had, This is very, very different. So I asked exactly the same thing, and it came back with, first of all, some questions straight away. So what areas am I looking at? I didn't specify UK or US or EU. I didn't ask what roles to look at. So am I looking at just software development? Am I looking at AI? Am I looking at anything, everything? And then lastly, it also said, would you like the report to be tabular format, so comparing current and future skills? So I very, very clearly just wrote, I'd like UK, all roles, and yes, give me a table as well. This took about 10 minutes rather than 5 seconds, but it went away and it looked, and it's given me a really comprehensive report, very, very nice looking report as well. Most in demand skills, and then it looks at the future skills. And it's just incredible how detailed it's gone. And once you've finished, you can also export this to Word. You can ask it to export this to Word or PDF. But then also you can continue tailoring it. But I just wanted to give you a very brief overview of how different using the research agent is to using just the standard chat. Much more powerful. Anyway, without further ado, we'll have a look at creating an agent. You'll see how easy this is. So I'm going to click on Create Agent. And it's going to ask me, what do I want to do? So I would like a HR agent to help staff ask questions about leave policies at Bob's Biscuits. So this is the test environment we have. You can also put spelling mistakes in there. Copilot obviously knows when you spell things incorrectly. It should come back pretty quickly. Should do. Normally does.
Copilot's acting up for the demo.
Of course it is. This is normally like a 5-second job. Right, here we go. So the HR agent's been set up to help staff at Bob's Biscuits with questions about leave policies. Next, choose a name. It's suggesting the HR leave assistant. I don't actually want that. I would like to call it HR assistant. Spelled that wrong. Hopefully it's going to realise I spelled that wrong. Definitely is going slower today. I think people are overworking Copilot this morning.
Yeah.
And it has actually called it assistancy. Oh, well, we'll live with that for today. Now it wants to know what it can do, and I'm fine with that. So this is okay. And the next thing it's going to do, it's going to ask me if there are any sources that I want it to actually work from. Would you like to add any public accessible websites? So on this point here, so without a Copilot 365 license, you can still create these individual agents. Can't share them like you can with a paid license, and you also can't use internal URLs. So if you were doing this without a license, you couldn't do what we're going to do now. So we're going to pop onto the SharePoint site here, and we're going to grab the link for my HR policy document. So I'm going to copy that link. I'm going to do it twice because sometimes it doesn't work. And then we go back to Copilot, and all we say is paste in the link, and that didn't work at all. I didn't want to copy. That's better. That's a copy link. So paste that in there. And it's going to go and review that link, check that it's valid, check that we have a license to be able to use an internal URL. So that's been successfully added. Now, at the moment, it's going to use that link and the internet. So I don't want this agent to refer to the internet, which I also spelt wrong. And it should come back and say, that's fine. The agent will not use the internet. It'll only use that document. Again, it's being slow this morning, so apologies.
With the free version of Copilot, is it just one HR agent you can create, or is there a couple of different options?
You can create as many frequently asked question bots and agents that you like. As I say, you just can't use internal documentation.
So the paid for Copilot is definitely the one to go for if you're looking to create agents, really.
Yeah, anything more advanced than something really straightforward like an FAQ. So you could do an FAQ for the website. You could do that for free, and then you could publish that. People can ask questions on your website, about your company. I do not know why this is taking so long, so do apologise. This should be working. I mean, you can come over, over on the other side here, it's been added. So if I actually say, ask about leave, test this while it's still going. And again, Copilot is ground to a halt on me. It is always the same, isn't it, when you're doing a live demo? But I tell you what, while it's not playing ball, I'm going to just click create, and we're going to create the agent. Typically, and do believe me, that normally works without any hitch whatsoever. And it did eventually come back with a response in the background. So the agent has now appeared here, my incorrectly spelled HR assistant. And it's given me a couple of prompts. So you can add prompts yourself. So if we were to edit this agent, come and edit this, and you can add more prompts so that your staff can have a few hints and tips on what to ask. But for now, I'm just going to ask what the, I'll ask about annual leave again, see if it's a bit quicker this time. Still a bit slow, but you get the point that it's only looking at my HR policy document that I uploaded. Yeah, it's been very slow today.
While this is loading up, underneath your HR assistant, you've got something that's called all agents. What other sort of agents are there available?
So that so it's come up with a response now. It was a bit slow. I mean, it tells you also the source. So you know the source is only looking at my policy document. This document also, incidentally, was created by Copilot. So Copilot, as I say, it's so helpful. You know, you're doing demos, you're doing things obviously in production as well. Copilot's there to help you create these things. So other agents, or all agents, this will look at, because we've got a license as well though. So bear in mind, we've added our agent here. Analyst and researcher are two of the new agents which Microsoft look after. And you've got a whole bunch of other ones here, writing coach, prompt coach. Again, there's a thing called Prompt Buddy, which was recommended last week, definitely worth you having a look at. But Prompt Coach is very similar, that's a Microsoft one. Prompt Buddy is a third-party agent. And there's obviously a lot more third-party agents. So these are third parties. And then even further down here, you'll find that like Monday.com has an agent, Canva has an agent. So if you're using Canva, you could add the Canva agent, and then you could effectively tell the agent what you want Canva to do. So again, endless opportunities. Anyway, that's that for the agent creation within Copilot app or Copilot for Teams. And I think you'll see how easy it is to do that. Apart from the fact that it was a bit slow. So I'll stop sharing now, Ellie, and back to the PowerPoint.
Thank you very much.
So the next thing, in a minute, we'll look at Copilot Studio. So the main differences are on this slide here. Copilot Lite or Copilot within the Copilot app, without a license, you can create agents, like I said, but you can't use them outside of Copilot and Teams. With the paid license, you can use them in other channels, even things like on the web. So sorry, yeah. So if you haven't got a license, you can't publish on the web. With a license, you can put it on the web. You can also use Copilot within WhatsApp and all sorts of other channels. Integrations, there are no integrations with the free one. With the paid one, you can integrate into all sorts of APIs. There's loads ready-built APIs like Salesforce and Dynamics. But for us internally, as like I mentioned earlier, we have to create our own connectors. But as long as there's an API, you can connect and get data from that source. Complexity, very simple, very, very simple apps within the free version, like the HR app, much more complex within the paid version. So when we look at the paid Copilot Studio, we'll touch on triggers. Triggers are things that will kick off an agent. For example, When we mentioned the CV formatting app, you can have a trigger that when an email comes in, the agent will start working and it will then grab the email and do whatever you want with it. With the free version, you can't do anything like that. Power Automate support, you've got no Power Automate within the free. Within the page, you've got Power Automate. So that's creating your flows. That's where you say, when an email comes in, you want the agent to do this, then it will do that, then it will do that. And you can build the workflows, again, with just natural language. There's no coding required. You can also get the agents to work with your data loss prevention and your auditing with the paid version. You can't do that with the free version. And it's more scalable with the paid version. Later on, we'll also touch on how you can monitor this as well. So as your business is creating agents, you can control who can create them, who can publish them, who can access them. And then within 365 Purview, which is a Microsoft, effectively the auditing and the compliance part of Microsoft, within there you can see exactly who's doing what with what agents, and you can really control it. So don't worry and think that it's just a free for all. It's really, you do have the full ability to control what's being done. So yeah, this is what I touched on before. So creating within Copilot Studio, you do have a lot more flexibility. So triggers and custom connectors, and this was just the scenario I gave you with the CV formatting agent. So in theory, you create a trigger. There's a Word tool within Copilot that you'd add the tool in, and that allows you to then manipulate Word documents. So it's all, I say, much more complex, much more functionality within the Copilot Studio. But we'll touch on that in a sec when I do the demo. So yeah, okay, I'll show you a bit of Copilot Studio just to give you an idea of the difference really and the complexity. Back to here. So this is Copilot Studio. Again, this is free to use, but you need a license to actually be able to do anything with it, and share and actually use all the functionality. So you'd need your Microsoft 365 Copilot license. If I go to agents, I'm going to create a new agent. And you can still use the description to start it off, but then you get a lot more functionality when you finish. So I'm going to do the same thing here, HR agent. You get the gist. So this will be a HR agent, again, for staff to ask questions about HR policies within the business. Start off by doing it with the free text. It'll ask me a few more questions, but then we'll delve a little bit more into other areas within the agent in a second. And it's asked to call it HR assistant. So yeah, that's fine. So we'll call it HR assistant. It will do the very similar thing again. It should ask about sources in a minute. And yeah, capabilities is fine. So this is fine. We'll let it do what Copilot wants to do. So it wants to know how you want this to work. So how it's going to handle the scenarios. You can be a lot more prescriptive about what it says and what it does. But for this demo, we'll just say this is fine. And you can always change the agent afterwards. You can come back in and modify all aspects of an agent. So we're not going to add any public accessible websites, but we're going to add in the internal one again. That's been successfully added. So no more. So now we're going to literally go and create the agent over here, top right hand corner. Now this is different. So with Copilot Studio, once the agent's created, it's not immediately available. We have to go in and give permissions, tell it what channels it's available in, which I'll show you as well in a second. So here is what it's done. So it defaults to ChatGPT 4. we can change that to ChatGPT 5 if we wish. Because this is a fairly simple one, all it's doing is looking at my SharePoint site or my document. So I'm going to leave that as it is. Triggers. I'm not going to add in triggers for this agent, but this is what I mentioned before. You can add a trigger here that will kick off an agent. So actually, it won't do anything till a trigger occurs. If I add a trigger, you can just see the amount of triggers available. So for example, when a task is completed in Planner, the agent could do something. When an item is created in SharePoint, your agent could do something. An email arrives, your agent could do something. So you get the idea that these are these are just the featured ones. You can also schedule agents to do things. Now, if you have an agent doing something based on a trigger, that's almost effectively an autonomous agent. And that does get a little bit more complicated in terms of whether you have to pay for AI credits or not. But to get around that, you can schedule an agent. So you could have an agent scheduled to run every half an hour, every 10 minutes. And that doesn't cost AI credits. That will work within your 365 license. If you look at the library, there's nothing in the library, okay. But they're the featured ones anyway, and you can look at all them. There should be a lot more a lot more triggers here. So there's loads of ways you can trigger an agent to run. And you can create your own as well. Instructions. So these instructions have been written purely on the very basic information we gave it. But you can obviously edit this and change this. So if you could say, if a question's asked but there's no answer, how does the agent respond? If certain things are said, what does the agent do? So you can be really quite prescriptive about what it can do. Knowledge, you can add knowledge from all sorts of sources. We've told it not to use web. We've disabled that, and we've only told it to use this. The beauty of doing it like this is that you're quite safe in the knowledge that your staff using this agent don't have access to the wrong information. But you've been really, really specific about what file or what SharePoint library that you're using. Tools. So tools are, if I go to add a tool, so this is if you want the agent to do something specifically with another tool. So for example, if I wanted it to create a Word document, I would add a Word tool. This is getting much more complicated. This is where you then add connectors to outside sources as well. So if I want the agent to use my Salesforce CRM, I would add a connector here. So it has the knowledge and the ability to integrate and basically communicate with Salesforce. And again, you can look here, again, the opportunities are endless of the different connectors that are available. Again, we won't use that for this HR example. And then it's also come up with some default prompts as well. So you can add and edit this completely. You might say, well, all I want is my staff to be able to ask about annual leave procedure. So you remove all the prompts and just put in your specific prompts. But again, it's only a guideline. They can ask it whatever they want. And then at the top, you can look at the activity here. So you can see what is happening with this agent, who's using it, how's it being used. Obviously, further analytics of the performance of the agent. But you can also add agents to agents. So if you're building quite a complex workflow, you haven't got to have one agent do every single job. You could have a top agent that's doing the first part, and then that could call a different agent to do something else, or a different agent, and you can create it like a workflow, so it'll pick whatever agent it needs to pick for whatever scenario. And then I'm just going to touch on channels as well. So to make this agent available, I'm going to tell it that I want it to be available in the Teams and Microsoft 365 Copilot channel. So you say here, oh, I need to publish it first. Apologies. Let me just publish the agent first. Now I'm an admin on this tenant. That's why I can publish it. If I wasn't an admin, it would go into the admin portal and it would be waiting for approval. So don't panic as well. I don't think that all your teams can start creating and publishing agents. They can't. It's very, very locked down, obviously, as much as you want it to be locked down. So if I now go to Teams and Microsoft Copilot, it's going to let me make this available. And then on here, I should do anyway. Oh yeah, there we go. Look, add channel. Once this is added, you then still have to tell it who can see it. And you can also tell it, do you want them to be able to install the agent, or do you want the agent already pinned to their sidebar? So I'll show you that very quickly as well. So availability options here. Click on this. So show to my teammates, show to everyone. And then if I say show to my teammates, it then should, I'm just going to say to me, should let me specify if it's automatically pushed out or not. So if I go back into here, back into availability options. Well, the option isn't there I'm looking for. But that should now appear in. So if I go back to my this. That's all agents. It should be here. Sometimes it takes a little while. So what would happen is after a few minutes, it would appear here and it will appear down the side because I've given myself permission to see it. But that was the main part of the demo, really, was to show you how easy it is to create it in Copilot app and also in Copilot Studio. Differences in the two, as I say, the amount of additional functionality within Studio, and it can get very overwhelming, but obviously that's what we're here to help with. And also, there's a lot of people out there that can help. But things like, you can have WhatsApp. If you've got a WhatsApp channel set up via your phone provider or however other way you're using WhatsApp, you can integrate the Copilot agent into WhatsApp. So you can have your agent talking to your customers via WhatsApp, via Slack. It's just, opportunities are endless. So that's that for that part. So I'll stop sharing. Obviously, if you've got any questions any questions along the way, please do pop them in the chat. I can respond at the end if we have time.
Just got a couple more slides to quickly go through. So I'll just hand back over to you, Andy, just about discussing monitoring Copilot.
Yes, so there's even more. So other than what I showed you very briefly there in terms of you can look at individual agents and how people are using them and who are using them. You can also look at it on a much more top level basis. So there's a thing called DSPM, which is Data Security Posture Management. This lives in Microsoft Purview. I've only put a couple of charts on it just to show you what it can do, but it can monitor, or it does, it monitors your whole business's activity within Copilot. You can see what agents are being used, who's using them. You can also go into details in what information is being put into the agents and into Copilot in general. So are people uploading sensitive details like national insurance numbers? People putting in other sensitive data. This will monitor it and it will keep you on top of that. There's also, in a more enterprise license, a product called Insider Risk Management. This will look at your whole business. An agent gets installed on every device, gets pushed out by Intune. That will monitor what people are putting into things outside of Copilot. So people putting in sensitive information into ChatGPT that they shouldn't be. Are they using other AI tools and uploading information from your business into those products or apps and websites? So Insider Risk Management, very good for that. It also does other things like it will monitor if you have a lever, so completely off topic, but if you have a lever, Insider Risk Management will tell you this member of staff suddenly started uploading loads of documents to their personal web page, or they started downloading loads of SharePoint files and sending them to their Gmail account. So it's a good product to look at if you are interested in that sort of thing. And last but not least, this was just a nice feature. I like this. I think it's a bit like Marmite. Some people like talking to their computer, some don't. A few weeks ago, they launched the voice chat with Copilot. Again, you need the license for this. But if you don't like typing, if you want to be able to talk to Copilot while you're working, I'll give you a very brief example of how this works. So on my mobile, I've got the Copilot chat, or the Microsoft 365 Copilot app. So we have all of our devices enrolled with Intune. As soon as a new app is available, we decide if we want to push it out or not. So for example, with my mobile, I've got all the Office apps, but I've also got the Microsoft 365 app as well. I talk to it and literally say, hi, what have I got going on today?
So here's a snapshot of your day. You've already had a webinar prep session this morning. Up next at 10:30 a.m., there's a session on Microsoft Copilot and agents.
I won't go all through it, but she will go through everything with me, as in the whole day, the whole week. And you don't just ask it things like your calendar. You can treat the Copilot voice chat exactly as you would the Copilot chat. So you can ask it to do literally anything. You get a text version as well, but I found it quite useful. If I've got Copilot on another browser window, I can be talking to Copilot and working at the same time. I think it's a cool feature, but you may not have known about it, so I thought I'd share that with you.
Thank you very much. I've just got a last thing for me, really. So we, as kind of Andy mentioned, we're planning to do more regular webinars, and they're kind of covering new features, best practices, and real world cases, demos, things like what we've done before. Obviously, on the webinars, we do also run the Q&A session kind of towards the end. So if any of you want to stick around for that, obviously me and Andy will be hanging around to answer any questions you've got. We've got a YouTube library for replays, so this just gives you on-demand access to all past webinars that we've done, which is obviously great for any new team members that you're onboarding. You can kind of always give them links and obviously direct them to our YouTube channel. As most of you hopefully know, obviously we've got the ongoing 24/7 support, so we've got a dedicated help desk for any technical issues, assistance, and obviously again, kind of just getting Copilot set up for your business. And we also do offer in-person interactive workshops. So kind of on demand, really, we can either come to your office or you could sort of come to us, and we just do deep dive sessions and real world examples on how we can get Copilot to work for you in your business. So that's everything from us. Thank you very much for all joining. We'll stick around for a couple of minutes to see if anyone's got any questions. Andy, I'm not sure if you can see the question box. We've got a question that's come in here.
No, you can. So with research, you can specify specific documents or a folder. So yeah, when you look at the sources, you can be very specific. You could just say, I want this SharePoint site or this folder within SharePoint or individual files from OneDrive or SharePoint. And you can tell it not to look elsewhere. Obviously, if you could tell it to look at the web and those documents. So yeah, very, very flexible. So for anyone that missed the beginning, the recordings are going to be on a YouTube channel. So we just add them to YouTube. We can also email them out as well. So yeah, Lauren, no problem at all. And thanks again for joining. There'll be many more. Hopefully Copilot won't have a slow go session like it did today, but on the whole, it works much quicker than that. Okay, I think that's it. Yeah, thanks ever so much again for joining, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks very much, guys.